Buckle in, sports fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show. The program will be starting in just a couple of minutes, so grab your popcorn and get ready to enjoy the show. While you're waiting, make sure you're following us on social media at WHBC Stream and staying tuned to WHBCStream.com. We're so glad to have you today on the program, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line on Twitter or call the show 352-639-0036. And thanks again for tuning in.
HBC. Well, it is a good evening to you and how you be. William Haynes here, you there, here on this Monday night at 10:22 with 58 seconds to go on. Along with it, you are listening to the William Haynes Show live on WHBC and on Spreaker.com. Before we get into anything, just wanted to let you know right off the bat, you can call the show at 352-639-0036 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter. No set timeline for the show tonight, but we have plenty to discuss. A weekend of sports that I missed, playoff hockey, a lot of stuff that went down in baseball, of course. We have a lot to talk about as far as the Rays go, so if you want to call in with that, you can do that. So thankful to have you here listening to the program. And without further ado, oh, Rays. 2-out rally Rays. Can't hit with runners in scoring position Rays. Can't make routine play Rays. In March, you stepped out on us, leaving us to only long for your return. We all saw it counting the days before you came back to be the summer fling we were missing. No long-term commitment, just making the most of our summer nights. We can't see you up close and personal like we used to, though. Instead, keeping a safe 6 feet of distance. After a 4-1 start, we thought you'd be as good as everyone had been telling us all spring. An abysmal 5-game road trip later, and you're leaving us wondering why we bothered in the first place. Let's play a little family feud. After starting pitching, what's something a baseball team would need to be good at? Play along at home. Hitting, relief pitching, defense, base running. Out of those 4, which have the Rays been good at so far? The old Rays model of winning with pitching and defense does not appear to be paying out, regardless of the fact that's what this roster is assembled to do. Add in some horrific base running and hauntingly poor hitting, and we have the 2020 Rays, who at 4-6 are setting the fan base into a frenzy. I say we all take a deep breath. While the Rays have refuted their struggles have nothing to do with playing their first outdoor games in 4 months, would we really be surprised if our boys this summer look like a whole different ball team in the comfort of 72 degrees and surrounded by their faithful in the form of cardboard? Not a sentence I thought I'd say a few months ago, but so is the year of 2020 in the age of 19. Bottom line, 2 games versus Boston, 4 against the Yankees, in St. Pete, Tropicana Field. If after that the Rays are still in this funk, well then we can all yell and scream like the sky's falling, because it might as well be. A rough weekend for the Rays. And the weekend that I missed, Saturday and Sunday, they go 0-2. That completed a sweep in Baltimore at the hands of the Orioles, who were going into this 2020 season regarded as one of the worst, up there with the Tigers, who have actually been surprising some people. But the Orioles, who have lost 100-plus games in the past 2 seasons, look like they were going to be even worse this year than in those editions. And, of course, after dropping 2 straight to the Braves in Atlanta, where the Rays did not look very good, you head to Baltimore, a weekend series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, thinking that you can stack some wins, and you end up getting swept. And this is probably the worst that we have felt about the Rays in quite some time. Probably, I don't want to exaggerate, but I mean, we're talking 2018 when they were really in a slump. I know they had some down turns during the 2019 season, but I mean, you don't feel great. But as I said in the monologue, I think we got to give them some time. I think this was a weird first road trip. Remember, they did not play any exhibition games on the road. It was all inter-squad stuff in Tropicana Field. And they did do some work outside, but, obviously no game action. The last game they played outside would have been in March during spring training, and then also having to deal with all the travel protocols, with the hotel and all that we know. The Rays decided not to do that. I think that ultimately is going to play to their disadvantage that they didn't do an exhibition game, at least one on the road. They could have easily done one in Atlanta or in Miami if they didn't want to show their hand to the Braves. They could have easily flown down to Miami and done a game. I know that's a hot spot right now for the virus, but I think they would have been better served doing that. I know that, like I said, the Rays were refuting that this has anything to do with being on the road, but I'm honestly going to tack up this 0-5 road trip to, during this COVID era, the weird health and safety protocols. The Rays, one of the more cautious teams in the league, are really trying to be respectful of the guidelines that Major League Baseball has given them. I think it's a weird time right now. It's humid. Baseball players have never started a season in weather like this. You usually start in March and early April when it's cold out. I mean, comes to mind the Rays were in Yankee Stadium in April a couple years ago, and a game got snowed out. That's what players are used to starting off with. And of course, 90-plus degree weather in Baltimore is not ideal. Of course, it really is inexcusable to get swept to the Orioles. I know Camden Yards in many ways has been a house of horrors for the Rays. They have not looked good there in the past handful of seasons. I don't remember the exact number, but the stat, I mean, it was like just barely above 500 in Camden Yards, while every other team combined was like 50 games above 500. You get the idea with that. Transitioning a bit off of that, like I said, we have so much to talk about. And I just wanted to give it to you one more time. You can call the show at 352-639-0036 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter. And without further ado as well, as we do, if you're not familiar with the program, we do sports updates on the 20s. And we'll give you the score updates. We have a lot to go under with that. NBA basketball, playoff hockey, some MLB baseball underway. The Mets just closing out a 7-2 win over the Braves. It was Jacob deGrom going 6 innings pitched in that one. Looked pretty impressive, and of course the Mets bullpen found a way to hold on. So we're going to do this weekend in sports, and then maybe head to a break, and then come back and talk some stuff that was some news over the weekend, and some stuff that came out today. And it looks like on the Spreaker chat, as you can chat in there, I have a feeling it was during my monologue. He says none. I'm assuming that was with the Family Feud, which have the Rays been good at. And Gabe, I can't blame you. The Rays have not looked very good. All the things that they did so well a season ago, they were not great on the base path. Eric Neander said that's something they wanted to improve on in the offseason. Obviously, have not done that. But the defense was really good. It was guys like Ji-Man Choi and Willie Adames looking really good defensively last year. And then this year, obviously, I think 3 errors at first base for Choi, and I think the error count for Willie is at 4 at shortstop. He was, I think, banging his bat or something in the dugout, something we've never seen from him. So frustration, no doubt, is at an all-time high. We're going to officially recap the Saturday and Sunday games for the Rays. On Saturday, it was a 5-4 loss in 11 innings. The starting pitcher, Tyler Glasnow, went 4 2/3, gave up 2 earned runs in the process. He had his curveball going early on. It had some sharp break and actually looked like a really good pitch. He ended up losing control, walked a bunch of people. He ended up being just a one-pitch pitcher towards the end of his outing. But, I mean, Orioles hitters knew the fastball was coming, and relatively speaking, he could still get him out. Obviously, wasn't his great start. Couldn't get through 5. Gave up 2 earned runs. Ended up taking a no decision, so hopefully a little bit better things from him next time around. And then after him in bulk relief, it was Trevor Richards pitching 2 1/3 innings. He gives up 2 earned runs as well in the process. A guy, along with Jalen Beeks, that we had highly touted as far as getting outs after a short start or potential opener if they wanted to go that route. But Trevor Richards has not looked great. Jalen Beeks has looked pretty good, but he's been a little shaky as well at times. But Trevor Richards, in just over 2 innings pitched, giving up 2 earned runs in the process. So the Rays find themselves down 4-1, and they end up coming back in the 8th, put up 3 runs. It was a tying single from KK to make it 4-4. It was a scoreless 9th inning for Diego Castillo. Who can believe it? The guy that I've been calling for the Rays to bring out of the bullpen. And in pretty much all 3 outings he's had, I think they were all scoreless innings. I think one of them was only a 1-out appearance. So at this point, that would be 2 1/3 innings pitched. I don't even believe he's given up a hit yet. It might have been a hit or a walk, but I mean, he's looked very good. I'm hoping that they start putting him in more high leverage situations, or even just more appearances in general, as guys like Drake and Chaz Rowe have not been looking great. Ryan Thompson lately has had some struggles, all the guys like that. So hopefully Diego Castillo, he's definitely proven himself in the early going, so hopefully he can get himself some more work. And then the game goes to extra innings as it was tied 4-4 after the 9th inning, and this is where things got a bit out of control. In the top of the 10th, it was Ji-Man Choi leading off at second base, as that's the rule. Obviously, nobody out, a runner at second. It was the player that made the last out in the order, so it happened to be Choi. A tough break for the Rays as he's not a great base runner. I would believe it was Manny Margot sending a fly ball into left field, and it was caught on the warning track. Ji-Man Choi tries to tag up from second and is easily thrown out at third. I mean, it was an easy play to make. So all of a sudden, right after that, you got 2 outs in the inning. Your runner at second was thrown out. The Rays end up getting no runs in the top of that 10th, but somehow they end up keeping the Orioles from scoring somehow with a runner at second and no outs. The Orioles opting for the they didn't bunt him over, but kind of getting a ground ball and moving the run over to third base, then trying to get the pop fly, whatever. They couldn't get it in the 10th. Then we head to the 11th, and you think the Rays catch a break. They have Kevin Kiermaier standing at second base, nobody out, and I was mistaken earlier when I said it was Margot. It was Margot here batting in the 11th. It was a sharply hit line drive through the infield. Kevin Kiermaier starts to head for third. It ends up being caught before hitting the ground, so it's a line out for Margot, and the Orioles go to second base to double up Kiermaier, who had misread the play. A guy that has not had a good past 3 or 4 days after hitting that walk-off on the first Sunday of the season. Really has not looked good defensively either, but the base running has been particularly poor. I believe it was the night or a couple nights before that he decided not to slide into second because he thought it was a foul ball. We know from all that. So it's Kevin Kiermaier misreading a play. So both in the 10th and 11th inning, the Rays get the runner at second thrown out on the base path, adding to their woes base running so far. And then it was in the bottom of the 11th inning. It was Oliver Drake. He had runners at second and third with 2 outs. Kevin Cash comes in and pulls him, puts in Chaz Rowe, who immediately gives up a walk-off single to Velicica of the Orioles. So, like I said, they lose 5-4 in 11. That was Saturday night. Disconcerting because they were down 4-1 in the 8th. They end up coming back, put up a 3 spot in that 8th inning, and you think, as well with Kevin Kiermaier driving in that tying run, that you think maybe the Rays could start turning around their offensive struggles and then doing what they did in the 10th and 11th inning really honestly was disappointing. No doubt. And then we head to Sunday. The Rays' losing streak was at this point 4 games. They had dropped to a game under 500 at 4-5, and it was Yanni Chirinos on the mound. The Rays end up losing 5-1 on Sunday. It was Yonny Chirinos giving them 4 2/3 of 1-run ball. It was a solo shot and a pitch. I believe it was a breaking ball that didn't quite break as he had intended. But other than that, he honestly looked pretty good. Did not go much distance, obviously, but he is your number 5 starter right now, and you honestly can't complain with just about 5 innings of 1-run ball, especially against the Orioles. That better be enough to get you a victory. Obviously, it was not. He gets a no decision, I believe. Yes, it was, because Brandon Lowe in the 6th inning, his first home run of the year, it was a solo shot, made it a tie game, 1-1, as I said, in the 6th inning. Jalen Beeks comes in after Chirinos, ends up taking the loss. It was a 3-run 7th. Chaz Rowe ended up coming in after and allowing 2 earned runs. So it was Beeks and Rowe, couldn't get anybody out in the 7th. So they take a 4-1 lead. And then in the 8th inning, it was Jose Alvarado allowing a solo home run, 2 hits in the process. Really did not look great. That was a spot, obviously not high leverage, but you put in Jose Alvarado as probably your second highest leverage guy right now behind Nick Anderson. You put him in just to try and keep it a 3-run game, and he does what he does and struggles against a weak Orioles lineup. So you don't feel great about him right now. He struggled with his control dating back to his first relief appearance of the year in that Blue Jays series. So not liking what I'm seeing from Jose Alvarado so far. Obviously, the bullpen is still in relatively good shape. Nick Anderson has looked sharp. Diego Castillo has looked sharp. And then they've had guys like Drake, who's had a couple of hiccups. Rowe as well. Did not look good yesterday, and Saturday gave up the winning run in extra innings. It was funny after that game in the presser, he was saying, basically went off on the extra inning rule, saying it wasn't real baseball, blah, blah, blah. Easy to say when you give up the winning hit. I don't knock him for it. He came in with runners on base. I mean, that's never easy. I guess that's their job. But Rowe, typically not a guy that comes in to put out the flames, a guy that typically starts an inning with his wipeout slider and a decent fastball. So probably, I mean, not a spot I would put him in again with runners on base, especially in scoring position. But the Orioles end up winning that one in extras, and then in Sunday get the 5-1 win. So after that, frustrations, of course, were at an all-time high. You had guys like Brandon Lowe and I believe Kevin Kiermaier giving him the old Aaron Rodgers RELAX relax treatment, which is fine. It's good that they're confident. It's good that, they're admitting that they're not playing well right now. There's things they need to clean up. Hopefully they do get cleaned up. Obviously, the stuff on the base path and whatnot has not looked good, and they really did not correct those mistakes. So you don't feel great about that. But as long as they're admitting, obviously they're making mistakes, it's hard not to. And they feel confident they can improve. They're going to have a chance. As I said in the monologue, this next homestand is really, really crucial. The Rays are now 4 games back of first. You only need second place in the AL East to make the postseason, obviously, as is the case in every division. But you have 2 games versus Boston at home, followed by 4 games in 3 days, I believe, against the Yankees. They were supposed to just play 4 games in 4 days, but because of some scheduling stuff, the Rays are going to end up having Thursday off. So they'll get 2 off days this week, obviously getting one today and one on Thursday. So maybe that'll give them a chance to, to work on some infield drills, to work out the defense, do some base running drills. I think that could end up helping them as well. But the Yankees are going to have to face Garrett Cole, who doomed them twice in a 5-game series against Houston last year. A guy that's definitely dominated the Rays. But they'll get their chance. Obviously, I mean, if they turn things around, I'm not saying sweep this homestand. I think you could easily take both games from the Red Sox. And I think if you at least win 2 of the 4 against the Yankees, it's going to be a little weird on Saturday with the 2 7-inning doubleheaders. Garrett Cole probably will go a complete game in 7 innings. That would just seem like something that would happen. So if you can take 2 of those 4, let's say 1, so basically we're talking a 500 homestand, which on paper doesn't sound great, but they are, AL East rivals. I think we can start turning this thing around. We're going to head to a 2020 sports update first of the show. Just wanted to give you the phone number one more time. We have a line open. Calling in the break, that would be a great time to do it. The number is 352-639-0036. At WHBC Stream is the Twitter. You can tweet us on there, and we'll read your thoughts on the air. And, of course, the Spreaker chat, where we've already had a person tune in. We appreciate Gabe for tuning into the show. Remember, you can contact us from all there. We're going to give you some sports updates. We're going to do, let's do baseball first. Here it is. HBC 2020. Just looks like a game that's gone final so far. It was the Mets 7-2 over the Braves. It was DeGrom in 6 innings getting his first win of the series. The Yankees and Phillies have returned from a rain delay. It's 6-2 Yanks in the 7th. Also in the 7th, it's the Reds 3-2 over the Indians. Also in the 7th, it is the White Sox and Brewers tied in Milwaukee at 4. Top of the 8th, Pirates and Twins tied at 4. In the 7th, the Cubs 2-0 over the Royals. In the 6th, it's the Giants 4, Rockies 4. At the end of 5, in a real good matchup, is the Dodgers and Padres tied at 3. And the last game in the top of the 5th, it is the Athletics up 4-1 over the Mariners. Here's a short break. We'll be right back.
Hey, sports fans. William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Stream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCstream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 636. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 10:43, we are back on the William Haynes Show, catching you up on everything that we missed this weekend in sports. We've got hockey to talk about, a little bit of basketball. We'll probably catch you on one of the 2020 sports updates to give you tonight's score, and we're keeping our eyes on that. Hockey right now that's relevant. The Canadiens, the Montreal Canadiens, who had an upset in Game 1, they're now losing to the Penguins 2-0 with 4 minutes left in the third period. So it looks like the Penguins are going to end up locking this game up and tying the series. Remember, it's a best of 5, not a best of 7. So it's the first to 3 wins. The Canadiens, the 12th seed, not expected to do anything. We didn't anticipate it either. A shocking Game 1 victory. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then also on the monitor, we have the Dodgers and Padres battle for first in the National League West in San Diego. The Padres in that beautiful mustard and brown. The Dodgers and the Road Grays, of course. Remember, you can call the show at 352-639-0036. We'd love to hear from you with your race thoughts, sports thoughts, whatever. We do have a line open at WHBC Stream. You can tweet at us, and there is a chat feature built into Spreaker.com where you're listening to the stream. And we appreciate everyone that's tuning into the show right now. And continuing our weekend in sports, we talked about the Rays, both 2 losses to the Orioles and Camden Yards, and we also have some baseball news. There was the Cardinals-Brewers series that got canceled completely. I believe when we were on the air on Friday, we discussed that the first game was being postponed, and they were going to try to do some double headers as the first non-East Coast coronavirus MLB cases popped up with the Cardinals. I believe it was like only 2 cases then. I think it's now ballooned up to 12 or 13. So that entire series ended up getting canceled. I guess they'll have to make it up at some point. Also, it was the Yankees winning on Saturday and Sunday over the Red Sox. They had that 3-game sweep because they won on Friday as well. 5 straight games with a home run for Aaron Judge. So the Yankees, of course, you hate to see it, but they're red hot. First, obviously in the American League East at 7-1. They're 4 games up at the Rays, who are at 4-6. And funny enough, in second place and in playoff position, it is the Baltimore Orioles at 5-3. They've won both of their series. Well, actually, no, scratch that. They won 2 of their first 3 series because they took they lost a 2-game set, both of them to the Yankees, who absolutely clobbered them. And then, of course, the Orioles come out and pitch well against the Rays. Hopefully, Tampa Bay can get that thing turned around. I believe it was yesterday on Sunday. It was a grand slam for Albert Pujols, his first home run of the year. He's now a couple home runs behind Willie Mays for, I think it's like 5th place on the all-time list. And I'm just looking up on the monitor. The Canadians did get a goal, so it is now 2-1 Penguins with just over 2 minutes left to play in the game. So we'll keep our eyes pretty peeled on that. The Canadians probably in about another minute or so are going to end up going empty net, pulling the goalie. I haven't got him, couldn't track him down yet, but maybe we can later in the show. NHL correspondent of the William Haynes Show, our friend Aaron of the program. He's been paying close attention to hockey this weekend, much more than I, who was watching a little bit more baseball. Hopefully we can get him on the program and he can give us his thoughts. But if not, I will fill in just fine in that department. Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers getting his first start of the season on Sunday. He got scratched from an opening day start because of back stiffness, I believe, and finally made his first start. In his first time out, he goes 5 2/3 innings pitched, gives up just 3 hits, no earned runs in Arizona against the Diamondbacks. Again, that was on Sunday, threw just under 90 pitches, so looks like Kershaw is as good as ever, at least as far as the past couple of seasons go. Of course, had that rough Game 5 of the NLDS in that relief appearance. October baseball is Clayton Kershaw's nightmare. But to start the year in the regular season, he is off to a good start. The Cincinnati Reds swept a doubleheader against the Tigers, something that they had not done on the road, sweeping a doubleheader, I believe, since the early 90s. So something cool for Reds fans. And it was Trevor Bauer going a complete game. Obviously, it's only 7 innings. It was a complete game shutout for Trevor Bauer. And a note about him, just to go off on a little thing, on YouTube, I don't know if it's his channel or if he's part of some sort of network or something like that, as the Canadians have just pulled their goalie with a minute to go. He does these vlogs. He even did one on a day that he started, but he just goes through his life. Shows you like the testing that they have to do for the COVID and what it's like being in the clubhouse and even like his stuff. So Trevor Bauer, definitely check that out on YouTube, but he did have a 7-inning complete game shutout against the Tigers this weekend. So that was a little bit cool to see. I'm sure we'll see Garrett Cole throw one of those against the Rays on Saturday when they have their doubleheader. Here it is, Yoenis Cespedes. This is probably the most interesting story of them all. So on Sunday, Cespedes was not in the lineup, and the Mets, I guess, came out with an official statement saying that they had no idea of Cespedes' whereabouts. He had not contacted the team. When the Mets tried to reach out to him, they couldn't find him. And so on Twitter, it's all this thing, is Cespedes okay? Of course, we had guys like Jose Fernandez, Tyler Skaggs, who ended up, unfortunately being dead, and the teams didn't know about it until later. So they're, of course, talk about, obviously the first thing Twitter goes to is the worst case scenario. Basically, what ended up happening is the Mets, I guess security broke into his hotel room, and they found that he just had packed up his stuff and left, didn't tell anyone. The story was that he had told his agent that he had no interest in playing as an icing on the Penguins. They had a puck just missed the empty net of the Canadians. It's 2-1 Penguins with just under a minute to go, and I can't do that because I'll lose my train of thought. We're talking about Cespedes. Basically, he told his agent that he was opting out over COVID-19 concerns. And he didn't, I guess, either he didn't tell the agent or the agent didn't tell the team, but they didn't find out until later. So Yoenis Cespedes, who was supposed to be a crucial part of the Mets team this year, ends up opting out. He finished the year batting just .161. He struck out 15 times in 31 at-bats, so basically half of his at-bats ended in a strikeout and in 2 home runs, including a solo shot on opening day that gave the Mets a 1-0 win. All-time high for Mets fans after winning on opening day. Good outing for Jacob deGrom, and of course, let me see now. They are 4-7 after picking up a win over the Braves tonight, so maybe they can get this thing turned around, but they are last place in the NL East as of right now, right under the Phillies, who have played 3 games, and they'll probably be taking a loss here in Yankee Stadium pretty soon, as that game is in the 8th. It is the Yankees up 6-2 over the Phils Jake Arrieta getting his first start for Philadelphia, and Garrett Cole, I believe this his third time out. And I believe his first start as well in Yankee Stadium, so that's kind of cool. Of course, no fans there to see it. Just under 15 seconds to go in the Montreal and Pittsburgh game, and it is going to be an empty net goal. So the Penguins are going to end up taking that one 3-1 and tie the series at 1 game apiece. And also on the monitor, we have the Dodgers and Padres tied at 3 in the 6th. It is Manny Machado getting a bloop singles, so 1 out. 1 on, nobody out for them, as we'll look to find a different game to put on the monitor, as obviously that Penguins-Canadiens game is over. So Cespedes, he opts out, was supposed to be a crucial part of the Mets team, as I said, a home run hitter. They were just going to play him at DH because of the injury concerns with having him play the field. Nothing's confirmed, nothing's official, but I've seen some stuff on Twitter and different places that there was some frustration. Obviously, a guy like Yoenis Cespedes, I hate to just make accusations. I have to be careful, but obviously it's COVID because you can opt out, and I don't think he gets the rest of his salary or whatever. But obviously he was frustrated. Was not off to a great start in the season after opening day. Had not looked great. A lot of strikeouts. Frustration within the clubhouse. I think he wanted to play the outfield, and Luis Rojas, the manager, was committed to just having him DH. So I don't know. There's a lot of factors at play. Of course, we're going to find out about it probably after the season, whatever kind of crazy stuff goes down within the Mets. It was a crazy day. It unfolded during the Rays and Orioles game on Sunday, so it was certainly an entertaining day of baseball as Tommy Pham grounds out, former Ray. So Cespedes, as I said, opts out. And the last piece of news over the weekend for baseball, it was Shohei Ohtani shut down as a pitcher. He reported, I believe, I don't know whether it was his arm or some shoulder, reported some pain at an MRI. The results of that, I don't think, was revealed. In his 2 starts, just an inning and 2/3 pitch, 7 earned runs in total. He did not record an out in his first start in Oakland. I think it was 4 or 5 runs, and then gave up a couple of runs against the Astros, who of course weren't stealing any signs, we think, but gave up a couple of earned runs in just under 2 innings. So obviously he's walked a bunch of people. Even in summer camp, couldn't really find control. Joe Madden said that they were going to start him on every Sunday game. Rookie of the year in 2018. He has ace potential as a starting pitcher and a middle of the order potential as a hitter. So the Angels may be in a position where they're going to have to choose which one is more important. If they want him to be their ace, he just came off a Tommy John surgery that he had in 2018. It was October of that year, so this is his first time back since surgery. Maybe he's going to have to take some more time off, do some different stuff if they want him to pitch. If not, he's day-to-day as a DH right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Angels decide to just say, screw it, screw the starting pitching. It's something that they've neglected for years. You have Mike Trout, you have Albert Pujols, who's come on a little bit strong. Anthony Rendon is back, and I think Mike Trout is going to be activated off the paternity list soon if he wasn't already. And that also reminds me that Austin Meadows, not confirmed, but we believe will be active tomorrow against the Red Sox, hopefully in that leadoff spot. We'll have to see. We'll talk about that when we wrap the show and preview tomorrow's game. Just about 6 minutes before another 2020 sports update, we're going to give you some hockey score updates. Remember, you can call the show at 352-639-0036 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter. There's a chat feature on Spreaker.com. We're listening, talking, may go in about another hour or so. Don't want to promise anything, but talk some more Rays. There's a lot of stuff going on in baseball right now. Playoff hockey's back. We got to talk about all that. And then NBA is back. Everything back. The sports is back. Our life is back to normal. Thank God, as the Phillies are putting up a couple of runs on the Yanks bullpen. It's now 6-3 Yankees in the top of the 8th. It's a man on with 2 outs. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. There's also another game that's close late in the top of the 8th. It is the Reds up 3-2 on the Indians, and an interesting matchup. And a lot of games right now are tied in the late stages of things, but we've got our eyes on the Padres and Dodgers. And as we go on, also in NHL, I guess we'll start off with that for the hockey. The weekend games started on Saturday. The first game, it was the Rangers losing to the Hurricanes. Henrik Lundqvist starting in net in lieu of Igor Shesterkin, which for whatever reason was not able to play. Did not play today either. The Rangers have dropped the first 2 games of the series to Carolina, and they are now down 2-0. They now have their backs up against the wall. They're going to have to win 3 straight if they have any hopes of getting into the real playoffs. A team that probably would not have made the postseason in a regular format. They did catch fire in the late goings, but probably would not have been enough. Obviously, the time off has cooled them down. The offense has not been good. They were 0 for 7 on the power play in Game 1 and only put up a goal today. So, as I said, they're now down 2-0 to the Hurricanes, who looks like they will advance. The Blackhawks had a major upset. They were another 12 seed along with the Canadiens. They upset the Oilers 6-4 in Game 1. That game is, I believe, just underway now. I think it was like a 10:30 start. So we'll keep our eyes on that. If the Blackhawks can take a 2-0 lead in the series, that would be incredible. The Blackhawks coming in were 32, 38, and 8. So a team 6 games under 500 could potentially win a playoff series against the Edmonton Oilers, as good as they are. So the Blackhawks, as of now, are up 1-0. It was the Islanders winning 2-1 over the Florida Panthers. We had anticipated that the Islanders' defense would be really good in this series and take them to a series victory. So they're off to a good start there. They're up in the series 1-0. And then in overtime, it was the Canadiens 3-2 over the Penguins on Saturday. As I said, that series is now tied as Pittsburgh won tonight. So that series, as I said, is tied. The Flames and Jets, the Flames won 4-1. And the Jets came back, I think it was today, and tied that series. So that was 1-1. And then I believe there was some round robin yesterday. Also, in the qualifying round, it was the Coyotes 4-3 over the Predators. So they take a 1-0 lead. Not an incredibly important series. I don't think either of those teams are going to make a lot of noise. It was the Flyers 4-1 over the Bruins in the round robin for the first 1-4 seeds. Obviously, they're all locks to make it to the next round, but just for seeding purposes, the Flyers get that win there. The Avalanche 2-1 over the Blues in the round robin. In the East qualifying, it was the Blue Jackets 2-0 over the Maple Leafs. We had a WHBC and the William Haynes Show had the Leafs taking that series, but not off to a good start. They are now down in the series 1-0. And it was the Wild, a 3-0 win over the Canucks. We had anticipated the Wild taking this series in 4 or 5 games, and they're off to a good start. They're up 1-0 in the series. And today's scores, we're actually going to save that for the break. And right now, the Oilers are up 2-1 on the Blackhawks in the first period. So I guess as I give it away, we're going to head to the 2020 sports break a couple minutes early. Remember, in the break, you can call us. We have a line open at 352-639-0036. We would love to hear from you, your Rays thoughts, sports thoughts, whatever's on your mind. At WHBC Stream is the Twitter. Here's the sports break. HBC. Just one game in action right now. It's the Oilers 2-1 over the Blackhawks midway through the first period. The Hurricanes won 4-1 over the Rangers, take a 2-0 series lead. It was the Jets 3-2 over the Flames. That series is tied 1 game apiece. In the round robin East qualifying, it was the Lightning 3-2 over the Capitals in a shootout. Also in the West round robin, it was the Golden Knights of Las Vegas 5-3 over the Dallas Stars, and one that just went final, the Penguins 3-1 over the Canadiens. That series is now tied 1 game apiece.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Stream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. please visit WHBCstream.com. And thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 1019 FM. Sports Radio 636. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:01, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Going to give you the call-in number one more time. The number is 352-639-0036. We have a line open, and of course, would love to hear from you at WHBC Stream. Is the Twitter. The Padres have now taken a 5-3 lead over the Dodgers. It looks like it was Austin Hedges, the catcher, knocking in a couple of runs, and they've got runners at second and third, I think, with only an out or two. We'll see. After the replays conclude, we also have put the Oilers and Blackhawks game on the monitor. I know we're not as much a hockey show, but I think you got to say that playoff hockey takes precedent over regular season baseball right now. But of course, we are a real Rays heavy show. The Lightning, I don't have a ton to break down as I didn't have my eyes peeled to it completely the whole time, but they did get a win in the shootout over the round robin. I guess this would be a good time to share a thought that I've had about the hockey. It was good to see the Rays get a win in the round robin. Also, we have some breaking news right now. I'll interrupt with that. Braves pitcher Mike Soroka is out for the season after suffering torn right Achilles tendon in Monday's game. I was watching the Mets game. He coming off the mound after the pitch. It was a weak ground ball, and he steps off the mound to go to first base, and something just gave in his right leg, and it ended up being his Achilles tendon. It was torn. So Mike Soroka, a big piece of the Braves rotation, is now out. Obviously, Fulte Newich is out of the picture after they DFA him. So the Braves, they dropped to 7-4 after tonight's loss, now losing one of their biggest pieces of the starting rotation. I'm going to pop open the Braves roster real quick to see who they have. I know, obviously, Max Fried would be your ace at this point. But losing Soroka is huge, especially in a short season, or where you're going to want those guys in a playoff series. It looks like they've got Max Fried, obviously. The only starting pitcher listed is Kyle Wright right now. So they're going to have to piece some things together. And Touki Toussaint is a guy that they've been trying to stretch out as a starter. The Rays clobbered him in St. Pete. But they're going to have to, I guess, go to a lot of opener stuff right now. They are really limited on options, at least as far as it's listed on ESPN, as far as whether a guy's a starter or a reliever. So I'm sure they have guys like Touki Toussaint who can go both ways. But now down to really two true starting pitchers in Kyle Wright and Max Fried, as Mike Soroka goes down for the year with a right Achilles tendon tear. Speaking of not the Achilles, but the leg, I wonder how Marcus Stroman of the Mets is doing with the right calf. What I think it was a tear, but they said he didn't need surgery. I don't know if they're going to try and rush him back or what. I would assume not. They're only 4-7 right now, but the pitching in New York, at least in Citi Field, needs a little bit of help. I know the Yankees don't have a great starting rotation either, as that game in the bottom of the 8th is 6-3 Yanks. As I said, we'll continue to monitor that, and trying to remember where I was in my train of thought before I was interrupted by that Soroka injury. I can't even remember. So we're going to go into today's news. It was the St. Louis Cardinals. Their 4-game set in Detroit was canceled. The Cardinals have just played 5 games. They're 2-3 right now. But of course, the series in Milwaukee was canceled after they had a bunch of positive tests. Their positive cases is now up to 13, at least as what's reported. 7 players, 6 staff members, so things are not looking great in St. Louis, but they look to resume play on Friday versus the Cubs in St. Louis. Also of note, Cardinals president John Mozeliak denies of the report that there were Cardinals players in a casino, I guess without a mask, whatever. That was the rumors as of how the virus was contracted by the Cardinals, and of course it went from 2 cases up to now 13. So not great in St. Louis. I'm not sure how they're going to work this out, but I guess you just quarantine all the positive cases and you move on with what you've got. That's what the Marlins are going to do. I believe they resume play tomorrow. Let me just check on that real quick because I think they are getting back up and going here soon. Let's see. Yes, they will be. Wow, they'll be in Camden Yards playing the Orioles tomorrow at 7:35. So we'll see how that goes. The Marlins' first game back. Again, they've also only played 3 games. They're 2-1. So such a strange season, man. You got teams that have played 10 games. Other teams have played 3, 4. Obviously, every team is probably not going to end up playing 60 games, so it's going to go by winning percentage as far as who makes the playoffs and who doesn't. Really, really weird this year, no doubt. Also, the Field of Dreams game was canceled. If you're not familiar with that, hopefully you've seen the movie Field of Dreams. If you have not, certainly, I don't want to say don't listen to the show, so after I'm done with the show, you watch that movie. It's a great movie. Kevin Costner. If you're not familiar with the premise of the movie, Kevin Costner's got a farm with his family. This is a real rough summary. It ends up building a baseball field in his cornfield. And baseball legends have passed, Shoeless Joe Jackson, all those guys play in the cornfield. I guess they're ghosts, whatever. It's a good movie. And the MLB was going to play a game at the site where that movie was shot. They were going to make their own little field, a baseball field in the cornfield. And it was going to be a game originally planned against the White Sox and the Yankees. That was when the time when we thought fans would be at games. And then they go to the scheduling where it's only East versus East, Central versus Central, so on and so forth. So they end up changing it to the White Sox and Cardinals. They said that this decision had nothing to do with the Cardinals' positive cases. Obviously, I'm sure they could have found a team. Well, maybe not in the Central, but you get the idea. I understand the logistics of if you can't have fans there. I know it's more for TV anyway. It was going to be some huge event, I believe, for ESPN or maybe it was Fox. But I mean, it's going to be a huge deal. It would have been cool to see, but it's postponed until 2021. They have said that the White Sox will be one of the teams, and they have not announced another team. I'm sure they're going to try and get the Yankees in there, as I said, because it's a big television event. You want draw from that perspective. I don't expect it to be Cardinals, White Sox. I think you got to have a big market team, whether it's the Red Sox or I'm not. I don't know about the Dodgers. You kind of want a team on the East Coast or around that part of the country, the Midwest. That's a big market. I'm guessing it'll be White Sox, Yankees, but it has been announced. Only the White Sox have confirmed to play there. And for the Marlins, there was a big story that came out. Derek Jeter did an interview, I believe, with ESPN. Talking about all their positive cases. Of course, the number ballooned up to 21, which is over half of their traveling party. In this interview, he refuted the report that they were out in the town in Atlanta during their exhibition games there. The timing lined up that, it easily could have been contracted during that little road trip there in the preseason. Jeter, who's I forgot to mention, the president, I believe, of baseball operations or something along that lines. I think he's in the ownership group. The Phillies down on their final 3 outs in Yankee Stadium, 6-3. He denied the report, said they weren't as careful as they could have been. Someone out for coffee, went to a teammate's house, whatever, but not like they were going out and partying in the clubs in Atlanta. Also said that, they just got a little bit too comfortable. They had a false sense of security. So I think we're lucky that this incident didn't end up taking down this season, that MLB was able to maneuver this. Obviously, it wasn't great. Some games had to be canceled. with the Orioles, and I think there was like the Phillies. Obviously, had to have a little bit of a layoff, and the Blue Jays and Nationals. I think were all warped up in that as well. Somehow, I don't know if those were connected, but they dealt with stuff in the Eastern divisions, AL and NL. They end up being able to maneuver around it, so I think at the end of the day, this can be the cautionary tale of the season. Basically, if you're not careful, you're going to end up like the Marlins and have half your team testing positive for COVID-19. I know the Rays, a team that has been very adamant about, following the guidelines. I believe after this, or it was after the Cardinals incident, the MLB updated the health and safety protocol. It was like 121 pages or something like that originally, but now there's like a COVID-19 kind of hall monitor type for the Rays. It's one of their assistant trainers and basically tells people to make sure they have their mask on, sitting apart from each other on the plane, so on and so forth. So MLB committed to getting this season in, and the Marlins, Jeter having some quotes. There's an article on ESPN I would recommend, but I basically gave you a pretty good synopsis of that article. Also, Dwayne Johnson has purchased the XFL. If I'd be surprised if you're not familiar with this. I am the host of the Around the XFL podcast. It's the flagship program, I suppose, of WHBC Stream. Definitely check that out on Spreaker.com. I gotta plug it. It's also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. The Around the XFL podcast there. It was pretty much just game previews and game breakdowns from last season. Of course, it went down midway through because of the COVID. They filed for bankruptcy. Vince McMahon obviously had enough money to get him through it, but obviously it's easier to just walk. Oliver Luck is suing him for like $21 million or something in salary. There's so much ridiculous parts of this story, and of course with the WWE and Vince McMahon, you wouldn't expect it any other way. I'm probably gonna have to do another XFL podcast to just kind of break down all this stuff. So I definitely subscribe to that podcast, especially if they're gonna play again. I assume that after they went down, that Vince McMahon was just gonna give up on his dream of spring football, and everyone was gonna go their separate ways. Spring football of any kind wasn't gonna work as the AAF shut down mid-season. Don't even get me started on that. So much stuff there, but the article says that they've been seeking a buyer for the past 3 months, marketing itself as a made-for-TV product that could transition as early as 2021 to a bubble concept during the coronavirus pandemic. So, of course, football is not as easy to do in a bubble. I have no idea where they would do it, if they're playing on a field or if it's a facility with multiple fields. It's not really logistical for football, but the XFL didn't really revolve around fans in the stands. I mean, they didn't have more than 15,000 or so anywhere you went. I think St. Louis might have had, it was like 25,000 or something like that, 30,000, but mainly more for TV. They had pretty cushy deals with ESPN and Fox Sports and all that. So honestly, if they can find a way to do the bubble, it's made for TV already. If you can get on the air, especially if there's no NFL, no college football, the appetite for football at that point would be as big as it's ever been, and you come out with some exciting XFL football in the spring. I think they could really find a way to capitalize on that. I don't know if it's going to work out, but Dwayne Johnson and an investment group, Redbird Capital Partners, bought the XFL for $15 million, which is, that's really cheap considering how much money went into this. Vince McMahon liquidated some of his WWE stock to start this up. It's so weird. Like, Vince McMahon, there was talks that he was going to bid on it, even though he was the one that put it up for bankruptcy. It's a whole thing. But Dwayne Johnson and the Redbird Capital Partners Group have bought it for $15 million, and they are making plans to play next season. I'm not sure what Dwayne Johnson's role in it. Of course, he's a marketable figure. People know him. There was a show on HBO called Ballers. I haven't seen the show, but there was ties in, I guess, that what he did in the show is similar to what he's doing now. I think in the show he was a football sports agent as a former NFL player, so maybe show to check out. But I'm sure he could play a role in this. Certainly makes the XFL more marketable. I think there's people that would watch it just to see if Dwayne Johnson was in it, for people that don't really know about the sport. So I think there's certainly potential there. There's stuff that they're going to have to deal with. I'm sure they have debts of some sort, buying it for only $15 million. Oliver Luck sued Vince McMahon for, I guess, wrongful termination. He had money left on his contract. So there's stuff that they're going to have to settle. But especially if Dwayne Johnson had a high-end investment firm involved, that, if there was something wrong, if it was a really bad buy, I'm sure, this investment firm wouldn't have done it. So I guess they're going to find a way to make it work. XFL football in 2021, XFL back from the dead is what they should call it. So stay tuned to Around the XFL podcast. WHBCstream.com is another place that you can get it. I would recommend going to that site as well, as all my work is documented on there. We got about 4 minutes until the next sports update. We're going to do some NBA scores. Remember that you can call the show at 352-639-0036. At WHBC Stream is the Twitter. Of course, as I always do, I could probably run a little long, but when we come back from the break, probably maybe another 15 or 20 minutes or so, we'll preview tomorrow's Rays game and then get off the air here. But we do have some stuff to talk about. Today's baseball games. Certainly some stuff, pretty much all the games in the late goings, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, so we'll talk about that. And I guess we can head to the break now. We're going to give you the basketball scores, and we'll be right back. This will be a good time to call in the break, 352-639-0036.
HBC.
Just one NBA game still in action in the fourth quarter. It is the Lakers up 97-86 up on the Jazz. Some final scores. It is the 76ers a win over the Spurs 132-130. A high-scoring game there. Joel Embiid with 27. DeMar DeRozan with 30. Also final the Raptors 107-103 over the Heat. In overtime, it's the Nuggets 121 to the Thunder's 113. Also final the Pacers 111-100 over the Wizards. And the only other game today was the Pelicans getting in the win column, a 109-99 win over the Grizzlies.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Stream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCstream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:19, we are back on the William Haynes Show as we approach the second hour of the program. We're certainly not going to get all the way through a second hour, but as we creep into it here, as we head into the night on this Monday night, a lot of talk about. We talked about the Rays' woes, 5-game losing streak. They look to get off the schneid in this crucial homestand. 2 games against the Red Sox, 4 games in 3 days against the Yankees. There's certainly some potential there. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up shocking some people, and I don't know about sweep, but you take 3 or 4 and you're turning some heads, especially for a Yankees team that is off to a red-hot start. As far as scores go for baseball, we got it on the monitor right here. Twins in a potential walk-off spot. They're tied 4-4 with the Pirates. This game is in Minnesota. Runners at first and second with nobody out. On the top of the lineup, it's the 2-hole hitter Luis Arraez. So we'll see if the Twins can get a nice little walk-off going. Had some scores go final recently. It was the Reds 3-2 over the Indians. It was Sonny Gray, who is now 3-0 and an 0.96 ERA. So, I mean, as far as National League Cy Young contenders, Sonny Gray has got to be at the top of that list. Zach Plesac taking the loss, so that's tough for him. I know he went like 8 innings in his last start. Also, final, the Yankees 6-3 over the Phillies. That game had a rain delay, I think, in the middle of the 7th. It's Garrett Cole. He's now 3-0 and a 2.55 ERA. That's his last start before he takes on the Rays in the first game of Saturday's doubleheader. That game gets underway at 2. Remember, just 7 innings. So definitely complete game potential. Let me just see how many innings that he went. Also, the Oilers, after the first period, are up on the Blackhawks 2-1 as they look to tie the series up. If they don't, they're in big trouble. Patrick Kane and company looking to shock the world for the Blackhawks. So it was Cole going 6 innings pitched, gave up a walk and 5 hits. So I don't know, a decent start. Only threw 91 pitches. Jake Arrieta in his first start taking the loss. That's not been a great signing for the Phillies. Other scores that have gone final, it's the Cubs 2-0 over the Royals. And that looks like it's it. There's also some games in the late stages that we'll keep our eye on. Productive out for the Twins. They removed runners to second and third, now with only 1 out. It was a fly out. Oh, wow, a mix-up. The center fielder and the right fielder almost collided. If the ball had gotten away, of course, that would have been it. So in the confusion, the Twins advanced the base runner. So with 1 out, the walk-off run is only 90 feet away. Guillermo Heredia, the guy coming in from right, that almost ended the game for the Pirates. So that's funny. I'll give you the phone line here, 352-639-0036. At WHBC Stream is the Twitter if you want to contact us there. There's also a chat feature on Spreaker.com. We'd love to hear from you in any of those forums, and we thank you to anyone who's listening to the program here on this Monday night. Obviously, you don't feel great if you're the Rays fan. I know that's right now my demographic audience, as I am a diehard Rays fan myself. I'm hoping they'll get things turned around. It's now Nelson Cruz at the plate. He's 2 for 4 with a couple of singles. Any kind of base hit would walk it off. Sacrifice fly in play would walk it off. Of course, Nick Birdie on the mound for the Pirates. If they can get out of it, it's headed to extras. A big cut and miss from Cruz, and it's 1-1. Also on the monitor, it's the Padres up 5-3 on the Dodgers. This was a series that I had pointed out, I believe, in one of last week's shows, as both teams had started off the season well, as another base hit for the Padres from Grisham, and Fernando Tatis heading for third, and it looks like he's going to get there. So runners, or I believe just a runner now at third, so then probably get him in. Joe Kelly pitching for the Dodgers. It's so weird to see. Obviously, he's still appealing that 8-game suspension. I guess that would work if he can just keep appealing it until the end of the season, if that's what he decides to do. You see that in football all the time. And I totally missed it. Nelson Cruz getting the walk-off win. The social distancing celebrations, they're spraying them with hand sanitizer, which I think is great, instead of the Gatorade bath. Give them the Purell bath. I think that'll catch on. That's pretty neat. So Cruz, I don't know if it was a hit. I'm sure we'll see a replay, but it walks it off for the Twins. They win 5-4 over the Pirates, and the Twins continue to roll. Their record is now, let me see, might not have gone final in the standings yet, but they are, I believe they're now 8-2. 8-2 for the Twins. So they're right there with the Yankees. Of course, we know what's going to be the end result of that. If they meet in the postseason, the Yankees always have the Twins' number, no matter how good the Twins seem to be. As once again, I've completely lost my train of thought. I guess we'll take this opportunity to transition into the last piece of news that I had. It was the Big 12, the final Power 5 conference, the final domino to fall, announcing they're playing. It's a 9-game conference schedule with a one single non-conference game. Obviously, outside of the ACC, the other 3 Power 5 has canceled non-conference, so assuming group of 5. There's a lot of schools in Texas, in that area of the country, Big 12 country. But you're talking like Rice, UTEP, schools like that. So just kind of a powder puff game. Whether they're going to do that the first week or in the back end, I'm not sure how they're going to work that. Did not announce a starting date, but as with every other conference, it's going to be late September, either the 3rd or 4th week of September, with the conference championship corresponding moving back a couple of weeks instead of early December. It is going to be December, I think, like the weekend of December 17th and 18th, as the Dodgers have Fernando Tatis in a pickle, and he's thrown out at home plate. So a triple, why not triple for Tatis? He ends up getting thrown out, and that will end the inning. So after 7, it is the Padres up 5-3 over the Dodgers, and they're going to have to send out what's been a surprisingly not so good bullpen to face the 9-1-2 hitters of the Dodgers. So we'll see what happens in that. So of course the Big 12, the last conference to announce. The ACC was the only other one that included a built-in a non-conference game, but we have found out that was just put in place to keep intact the ACC-SEC rivalry games. Of course, you have Florida State. That was going to be the biggest one. I was hoping to go to that game, as I'll be a student at Florida State this fall. Georgia Tech, Louisville, Kentucky, and Clemson, South Carolina, I believe, was the only other one. So, but with the SEC canceling non-conference scheduling this year, none of those games are going to be played, despite the ACC's effort to get that through. The Pac-12 and the Big Ten also are doing no non-conference and shortened schedules a little bit. This seems awfully optimistic. Basically 10-game schedules starting only a couple weeks late. There's been a lot of talk of a spring season, and people that are in the know say that it's more likely that it's going to be in the spring. So I don't know why they're coming out and announcing these officialized plans. I guess it's not super official. They haven't put out a complete schedule, just a rough outline of a start and a finish, and basically who they're going to play. The ACC, I believe, was the only one that put out really who's who as far as opponents go. We got the Florida State scheduled, their home and road games. They will be, they'll have Clemson at home, and I believe notably they'll have Notre Dame in South Bend. So a tough schedule for the Seminoles in Mike Norvell's first year as head coach. That'll be a fun first season for him, no doubt. Looking to see if there's any more baseball games that aren't final. They're not. I'll give you the scores right now. In the top of the 9th, it's the White Sox 5-4 over the Brewers. The Twins walked it off against the Pirates 5-4. In the top of the 9th, it is the Rockies 7, Giants 4. So it looks like the Rockies are going to advance to 7-2. Who would have thought that the Rockies would be off to such a hot start? And in the 7th, it is the Athletics blowing the doors off the Mariners 9-1. The Athletics just at 5-4. The Mariners at 4-6. So a pretty weak American League East right now, or American League West, I should say. The American League East certainly is not weak. It's the Athletics leading it right now at 5-4, also tied with the Astros at 5-4. So the Angels at 3-7. I mean, no one that really stands out. It's going to be either the A's or the Astros, and well, in this format, they'll both end up making the playoffs if it's 1 and 2 seeded that way. Pomeranz out for the Padres. They look to hold on to a 2-run lead, 6 outs left to get for them in a crucial, I think, first game against the Dodgers. Could certainly set the tone. It was Walker Buehler v. Chris Paddock, so honestly a really good game. A pitcher's duel that has turned into a battle of the bullpens here with the Padres trying to come out on top in San Diego. I guess now that we're transitioned over to some baseball talk, moving over to the NL West, it's currently technically the Rockies in the lead, and I guess if the Rockies win and the Dodgers lose, it'll be that way. The Rockies in first, Dodgers at second, the Padres are third, and then at the bottom you have the Giants and the D-backs. So those two teams are probably out. So now it's a 3-team race for 2 spots, potentially even a third if it's one of those wild cards. I could see if the Rockies can keep this up, as I know their lineup has been really good lately, we could see the Rockies, the Dodgers, and the Padres all in the National League playoffs, especially with how weak the Central is, and the East does not look great either. Of course, the Central, the Cubs, the only team over 500. They are at 8-2, a better start than I had anticipated. They're riding a 4-game win streak. The pitching hasn't been great, but I guess the lineup's been good enough. Reds at 5-5, Brewers at 3-3, Cards at 2-3, and the Pirates are out of it already at 2-7. So some teams just small sample size. I mean, the Brewers and the Cardinals haven't seen enough from them. The Reds don't look great. They're at 500. I'm not sure which way they'll end up bouncing. I think Joey Votto is out right now with COVID symptoms, or I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up opting out or something like that happens. So I'm not ready to say I'm out on the Reds, but I don't love where they're at right now. And then we look at the National League East. You have the Braves leading it right now at 7-4. Of course, Mike Soroka went down for the year, a torn Achilles tendon, so that really hurts the rotation. But you look at the other teams in that division, who's going to overtake them? The Marlins at 2-1, the Nationals who are at 3-4, the Phillies at 1-3, and the New York Mets at 4-7. So none of those four teams, and to believe that 2 out of these 5 are going to make the playoffs is absurd in this expanded playoffs. I mean, honestly, the door is wide open for the Marlins if they can find a way to ride that momentum that they had in Philly on opening weekend. The Phillies, who just lost to the Yankees tonight, and don't love where they're at, but they've only played 4 games. Sample size is small. Same with the Nationals. Haven't seen them in a while. They've had some game cancellations. And the New York Mets, surprise, surprise, are the New York Mets. They continue to Met. So I don't know where that's at. I'm sure they'll go on a run late in the season and may make a push for that second spot. But really after going through that, I think the main takeaway is if the teams in the NL West can keep it up, we'll be looking at 3 playoff teams from that division, the Rockies, the Dodgers, and the Padres. And that would honestly be interesting. The Rockies haven't been in it in a couple of years. They look pretty good. I want to pull up their lineup because, I mean, their hitters are absolutely on fire. The pitching has been better, I believe, than anticipated. As I don't know why they make it so hard to find a box score. Here it is. The lineup, David Dahl, who's been leading off, 257. Trevor Story is 355. Charlie Blackmon is 353. Daniel Murphy's 364. I want to see the home run count too, because I know I'll work on that to try and find that for their roster. I mean, but their lineup, obviously that's how the Rockies are built in Coors Field, where the ball flies around, not a pitcher's park, certainly. So I like the way they're built right now. It's working for them. It looks like they're going to be getting another win. The Giants are coming back. It's now 7-6, and the Giants have a runner at third, but it looks like 3 outs. So I hate the way ESPN does that. It looks like that game is final. We'll keep our eyes on that. So it looks like the Rockies, cardiac at the end, the cardiac kids, but they end up pulling it out. It looks like the only other games active, got the White Sox 6-4 of the Brewers. And, of course, you know, the A's are blowing out the Mariners right now. So, here it is. The David Dahl, as I said, 257. He's been leading off. Not been great. I'm trying to see. Yeah, Trevor Story, 354, 4 home runs. He's been great so far. And the lineup, as I said, I read off all those, 350 hitters. They're doing some damage even without. They're missing a couple guys, Ian Desmond, and I think one other guy in the lineup. They've been getting by, and I mean, and if you can ride a hot streak in a 60-game season, the Rockies would not have made it in a 162-game season. But why the heck not? In a 60-game year, anything can happen. The Rockies are taking advantage of what's in front of them right now. And then as we look over to the American League, we probably won't do a sports update in about 6 minutes, but we'll take a little bit of a break before we probably wrap the show. Not sure if we'll get to 12, but remember you can call the show at 352-639-0036. At WHBC Stream is the Twitter, and we'd love to hear from you. Starting off in the East Division, it's the Yankees, of course, at 8-1. They've looked red hot, but of course we'll see them for 4 games in St. Pete, a couple of 7-inning games. So that we'll talk about that later this week. I'm not sure if that hurts or helps the Rays or helps the Yankees. The Orioles, who are in second place at 5-3, I don't see how they're going to be able to keep it up. Their roster just isn't there. The lineup is hot. The pitchers aren't as much. I mean, the bullpen is bad. Starting rotation is bad. So I don't know how to keep it up. The Blue Jays, who've been out of commission for a while. They're at 3-4. So I don't think we've seen enough from them. Of course, if you're a Rays fan, you watch those games against the Blue Jays, you saw what they can do. The pitching is okay. They're missing some guys right now, including their starter, or their closer, who got injured in a game against the Rays. So he's going to miss some time. But the rotation is okay. The bullpen's all right, and the lineup is really good. So they're working on that facility in Buffalo, so maybe they'll start getting some home games. They can catch fire. I don't know why I'm talking like I want them to catch fire. Of course I don't. I'd rather the Rays, who are now at 4th place. That hurts to say. It really does. In the American League East at 4-6. 4.5 games back now of first after the Yankees win. But as I said, and I'll keep saying, 5-game losing streak for the Rays, a rough opening road trip. Ran into a Braves team that started to really catch fire. And then whatever the hell that Orioles series was, hopefully the Rays can put that to bed. You got 2 against the Sox of Boston, 4 against the Yankees, and it's at home. I think that's the biggest part. Playing in front of the cardboard cutouts, we know from all of that, the rotation is starting to stretch deeper and deeper into ball games. Hopefully that can have a trickle-down effect and alleviate some of the stress on the bullpen that's obviously been there. It's obviously not a fatigue thing, but you keep putting the bullpen out in situations where you're asking them to get big outs, and they just haven't been able to do that. But offense isn't giving them enough run support either. There's a whole bunch of stuff. The base running's been bad. The defense has not been helping the pitchers. You give teams extra outs, of course they're going to score runs. That's just nature of baseball. So a Rays slew of issues. I'm hoping it's just a funk and it's not what this team is. Tomorrow will be a good indicator to see how they respond at home. They got an off day today, which Brandon Lau and company were saying was going to be big. As the Blackhawks, it looks like, or no, it is the Oilers get a goal, so they're up now 3-1 on the Blackhawks in the second period. So it looks like they may be able to run away with this one and tie the series up. Not sure how the Blackhawks will be able to come back tonight, or maybe even in the series. I expected this one to go in 4. And it very well may do that if the Oilers can take the next 3. And then also in the AL East in 5th, it's the Red Sox. Their starting rotation's been bad. The bullpen's been bad. They almost took a couple games against the Yankees, but of course the pitching failed them. The lineup's been pretty good. That's my concern in these next 2 games. But that's what the Rays are built to do. They're built to shut guys down. They were great against the Red Sox last year. Not so much at the Trop, but at Fenway. We'll see them in Fenway a little bit later. So 2 games against them coming up. We go to the American League Central. It's the Twins leading it at 7-2. They've looked great. Of course, they walked it off against the Pirates. So actually, scratch that. It's 8-2. I'm trying to get it to refresh, but it's not wanted to do that. And I was right. The Rockies ended up closing it out. They had a 7-6 win over the Giants. The Giants tried to make a late push as they dip under 500 at 5-6. I think the Giants they're lucky to have 5 wins, so I don't think they're going to be able to do anything. The White Sox are at second place at 5-4. They've looked okay. 4-game winning streak. So they started 1-4. So they're really coming into their own. Prospects like Luis Roberts have been playing really good. All those young guys, Yohan Moncada, their offseason acquisition. I believe it was like one of the only times in MLB history where the first 4 or 5 batters in the order were all Cuban-born. Not really relevant to anything with the team, but I thought that was an interesting note. They shared that on one of the Rays broadcasts over the weekend. So that's kind of cool for such a small country, obviously in Cuba, compared to actual states in the U.S. It's crazy how they produce so many great baseball talents, and it just goes to show you. With the White Sox order right now, the Tigers, I think, are overachieving at 5-5. I think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. They got swept in a doubleheader. The run differential, I should say, is -11, and they're 500. So that's crazy. I think they're going to come back down to earth. The Indians have come down a little bit, a 4-game losing streak. They're now 5-6 after a really hot start. Great rotation, great lineup, decent bullpen, if I dare say. To me, they look like a complete team. I think they'll switch places. I think the Indians will be third for a while, and the Tigers will dip back down The Twins are going to win this division. It's a two-team race between the White Sox and the Indians for that 2 spot. I don't see a wild card coming out of the Central. It'll probably be one out of the East. Well, in a really weak West, who knows? It could be 2 wild cards out of the East. Could you imagine the 4 out of the 5 teams in the American League East making the playoffs? That would be absolutely absurd. So, I don't know. One will go to the Central or the West. Who knows? But it's a battle between the White Sox and the Indians. Look forward to seeing those 2 teams playing a series to kind of get a gauge of where they're at. But, of course, the Twins are in the driver's seat at 8-2. Interested to see if they meet the Yankees in the postseason. And in the West, it is a 2-way tie for first. Both the A's and the Astros at 5-4. Neither have looked great. I haven't really looked into the A's a whole lot. I know the Astros pitching has really let them down, but also their hitters. I mean, Michael Brantley, I think, is batting under 100. Alex Bregman and Altuve are batting under 200. Of course, it goes to show you're so used to knowing what pitch is coming, and then all of a sudden you have to get used to not knowing that. I know that was only at home games. They still had to play for real on the road, but not an easy adjustment. They're getting the best from the opposing team every time out. And then you look towards the bottom of that division, the Mariners, the Rangers, the Angels. I see nothing there. The Angels, as much as that lineup can do, we talked about this before the season. If you don't pay any attention to the rotation of the bullpen, it doesn't matter how good your offense is. I know Trout's missed a little bit of time on the paternity list. He's back, but too little too late for the Angels. The Shohei Ohtani experiment is in jeopardy after he's done for the year as a pitcher. He's not looked great either, so maybe he didn't recover well from that Tommy John. They've got guys in the order, but that's it. The Rangers haven't shown me anything. Neither have the Mariners. We're going to take a little bit of a break. I think we're going to end this probably at midnight sharp or thereabouts. You can call the show, and the break would be a great time at 352-639-0036 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter. Again, we love to hear from you, and we're going to take a little bit of a break.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBC Stream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCStream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 109 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:44, we are back on the William Haynes Show. The number to call if you want to get on the show is 352-639-0036 at WHBC Stream on the Twitter. I missed it. There was a Blackhawks goal. It is now 3-2 Edmonton. The Oilers are on a power play with about a minute and a half left to go. The Blackhawks looking to kill and keep themselves in the game. So this game could get interesting. Padres still up on the Dodgers 5-3. We may be on the air by the time that game finishes. Probably just another 15 minutes or so on the program. Really, the only thing left to do, I guess, is to talk about tomorrow's set of games, maybe talk a little bit of NBA. As I said about basketball right now, I'm not going to give it a whole lot of time on the air, simply because a lot of these playoff spots are already locked up. Now at this point, the next week, and a half or so is all regular season to determine playoff positioning, as the Blackhawks goalie Corey Crawford, I believe, made a nice save with the stick. The East is already wrapped up. It's like basically 2 teams in 2 spots. The other team, the Wizards, are out of it, but not officially, mathematically. So I'm not interested in following that. Seeding doesn't matter. There's no home court advantage. Matchups don't really matter because you're going to have to play good teams anyway. The West is a little different. I don't think the Pelicans are going to get in. That would be the only thing really to track. Teams like the Grizzlies, John Morant, that would be fun. But we're talking one-man teams, really. I know the Pelicans have got pieces, but they're no Lakers or Clippers or whatever. So we could talk about it a little bit. If you got a basketball call, we'd be happy to take it. But I think we're going to sit it out until playoffs start, and then of course we'll start talking about it. Hopefully we'll get some good series. Like, I would love another Bucks Raptors series in the East. Nothing else really stands out to me there. But obviously, a Lakers Clippers series. What a shame that this isn't a normal world. Could you imagine a Staples Center? Obviously, they both play in the same stadium, where every 2 games or whatever it is, they change the paint. How is it going to change with the fans? Is it going to be, Lakers friendly, the Laker designated games, and Clippers friendly, the Clippers designated games? Obviously, who the hell knows? It's Los Angeles. That would have been really fun to see. It's a shame that we won't get that. Hopefully we will still get that matchup in Orlando, because I think, talk about star power. LeBron James, Anthony Davis going up against the tag team of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I know the Clippers haven't looked as good, especially that duo has been a little bit shaky, but in a best of 7, man, would that be great to see. And then you've got some other teams in the West that could potentially do some damage as well. Of course, whoever wins out of that series, if they play, is going to have to play someone else, of course. So, NBA playoffs going to be fun. Not so much interested in the regular season that's going on right now. I'm going to peek and see at the hockey games tomorrow. It's probably going to be mostly round robin, as I don't believe the Rangers play until Thursday. Actually, is this right? Tomorrow the Rangers are playing on a back-to-back, so the Rangers are going to play down 2-0. They've got to win the next 3. The Rays know what that feels like, down 2-0 in a best-of-5. We're a little bit of a New York show, but so we keep our eyes on the Rangers and the Islanders and, of course, all that. Speaking of the Islanders, they're going to play the Panthers tomorrow at noon, so we'll have that game to talk about on the show tomorrow. The Islanders are up they're up 1-0 in the series. I think the defense is going to dominate that series, and maybe the Islanders will come away with the win tomorrow. We'll see. At 2:30, it is the Coyotes and Predators. I don't really care about that series as much. Apologies if you're a fan of either of those teams. Whoever wins is probably going to get pretty beat up by the first team they play in the real playoffs, so I don't think it matters who wins that series. Blue Jackets and Maple Leafs. Columbus up in the series 1-0. So the Maple Leafs, if they don't win this game, who I expected would win the series, they're going to be in some big, big trouble. I know their goalie, Frederick Anderson, struggled a little bit. The Maple Leafs run by their offense, and of course that Tortorella defense of the Blue Jackets has stifled it a little bit. So an interesting game too. That one's at 4. 6:45, Flames and Jets. That series is tied 1 game apiece. So surprised we're already getting the 3rd game of that series. Well, we're getting a couple of those. Of course, the Rangers and Hurricanes are on at 8. And then at 10:45, it is the Canucks and the Wild. The Wild up on that series 1-0. So maybe the Wild, who I predicted would win the series, would take a stronghold in that series. We'll see. I'm trying to see if there's going to be any new series tomorrow in baseball, if they're all rollovers. There's going to be another Twins Pirates game. I guess they don't have pitching announcements. Oh, yeah, they do. Joe Musgrove v. Rich Hill. I forget Rich Hill from the Dodgers coming over to the Twins. He's 1-0 on the year. Shane Bieber on the mound for the Indians as they take on the Reds once again. The Rays, who we'll talk about the pitching matchup. The Mets head up to D.C. from Atlanta. I know there's going to be a lot of rain because of the hurricane going on right now, so probably a lot of more postponements. We're probably going to get a lot of 7-inning doubleheaders this year, which I haven't watched one yet. We will get a chance as Rays fans to watch that on Saturday. I think it'll be cool. Traditional doubleheaders. It's not day-night. It takes place. One game is going to start about 20 minutes after the first. So, 14 innings of baseball, 2 separate games. Why the heck not? Especially against the Yankees. That's going to be pretty cool, as Cody Bellinger has absolutely crushed a solo home run off Kirby Yates to make it a 1-run game. It is now 5-4 Padres in the 9th inning. So this is the last stand for the Dodgers, and they have cut the Padres lead in half. We'll keep our eyes peeled on that as the Blackhawks are just getting off a power play, and the Oilers are about to go on one halfway through the second period. It's the Oilers up 3-2. So the Mets are going to have Steven Matz in the first game. Nationals unannounced. So if that game is played and not rained out, maybe the Mets a chance to get things, keep the momentum going if they even have any right now. They're a 1-game win streak. Jacob deGrom getting the win tonight. A Nationals team that hasn't played in a couple days. Maybe the Mets can take advantage of that. But they're going to have Steven Matz have a good outing. The Blue Jays coming back. They're in Atlanta, so a long homestand for the Braves. It's Max Fried v. Matt Shoemaker. That's a good pitching matchup. Definitely, wow, the over-under is at 9. I would be pounding the under on that for sure. Orioles and Marlins. Marlins coming back. They have unannounced pitcher, but John Means on the mound for the O's in Baltimore. Looking for new series. White Sox and Brewers continue. Lucas Giolito v. Brandon Woodruff. So that's a pretty decent matchup. Giolito did not have a good game. His first time out, a loss, 6.52 ERA, but he was very good last year. And Woodruff 1-1 with a 159 earned run average. As I was mistaken, there was another delayed penalty. I read it wrong on the broadcast on the Oilers. So the Blackhawks get in another power play. They're down just a run. Just 30 seconds in, they got a minute and a half left on the power play. They're getting shots on goal. And as I said, it is a 1-run game with the Dodgers down to their final 2 outs after Kirby Yates got someone. Other matchups tomorrow, Herman Marquez is on the mound for the Rockies against the Giants. So, the Rockies could win tomorrow and they would be 8-2. I think that's the best record in the National League. That is absolutely insane. A team that I wrote off, I shared an interesting anecdote about sitting right behind their bullpen, the visiting bullpen at a Rays game. That was pretty cool. I guess I'll give you the synopsis here. It was, got to the game early, was sitting in the outfield. The Rays representative had a wad of tickets. I guess the visiting bullpen was empty for whatever reason. They needed butts in the seats, and gave me and my dad free tickets to sit behind the visiting bullpen. Some of the relievers actually talked to us, which was absolutely insane. The pitching or the bullpen coach was talking to us too, talking trash because we were Rays fans, of course. Really, really cool. So I had that attachment to the Rockies. Not that I'm a huge fan of them, but I follow their bullpen because I talked with some of them. It was pretty cool. And Herman Marquez, their best starting pitcher, is on the mound. A chance to bring them up to 8-2. Madison Bumgarner on the mound for the D-backs tomorrow against the Astros. Hopefully the Diamondbacks can win that one. Bumgarner 0-1 with a 409 earned run average. Looking for anything else that stands out. Dodgers and Padres tomorrow. Dustin May on the mound for LA. Dinelson Lamet, the starter for the Padres. 1-0, 180 ERA. I believe that's one of their prospect starting pitchers. As Kirby Yates just got a big swing and a miss. I'm wondering if that's a strikeout. I believe it is. Yes. So the Dodgers down to their final out. It is Corey Seager with the bases empty, 2 outs. Dodgers down a run. I guess we'll do a little bit of play-by-play here as the Oilers killed another penalty. 2 straight penalties back-to-back as they hold their 3-2 lead over the Blackhawks. It takes some serious talent, folks, to do play-by-play of 2 different games of different sports. It's pretty cool. Pitch low to, it's actually Chris Taylor who's over 2 on the night. And the count 1-0. Chris Taylor in his career versus Kirby Yates, 2 for 7, 2 singles, 2 RBIs. I guess he's the 7 hitter, just looking to get on base here. As I look for other games, that Dodgers-Padres game is going to be another beauty, you would assume, as this one is shaping out to be not so bad itself. The Padres closer, Yates trying to get one final out. The count is now 2 balls and no strikes. The Phillies and Yankees game tomorrow is already postponed because of inclement weather with the hurricane, but they're going to play a doubleheader on Wednesday, so they'll still get those 3 games in. I think they're going to do it in Philadelphia, and the Yankees will just be the designated home team in one of them. Obviously, it doesn't matter really. There's no home field advantage, so just bat in the bottom of the ninth, in the bottom of the innings, I should say. So they'll do it that way. It's a little strange, but you got to do what you got to do. The Cardinals-Tigers game, as I said, was postponed, and that looks like to be about it. I don't want to start previewing the Rays game until Yates can get this final out. We'll see the 2-1 pitch upcoming, and here it is. And it's a curveball that drops in the zone for a strike. So Chris Taylor and the Dodgers down to their final strike. They came into the ninth down 2. A solo home run for Cody Bellinger cut the lead in half. But it looks like Kirby Yates has settled down. Former Rays reliever, I believe, has gotten the next 2 outs and is 1 strike away from closing this game out. A crucial victory it would be over the Dodgers. And here's the 2-2. And just inside, the count to Taylor goes full. Looking up at the game also, 8 minutes left in the second period. The Oilers 3-2 over the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks took game 1. So if they can get this game, they put themselves in prime position to shock the world and make the playoffs for real. Full count pitch upcoming to Taylor. Here it is. And a swing and a miss on a nice breaking ball. Kirby Yates gets the save despite giving up that home run. So the Padres win by a score of 5-4. Glad we could be on the air for that one. That was certainly a fun game, no doubt. And the Blackhawks have gone on yet another power play. It looks like tripping for the Oilers. So another 2 minutes for the Blackhawks. And on the final couple of minutes of the program, just wanted to remind you that you can call the show at 352-639-0036 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter. I'd recommend you follow on there. We tweet automatically when we go live. We're going to go live tomorrow after the Rays game, and also WHBCstream.com for all my projects. We're going to have to get the Around the XFL podcast up and going again as Dwayne Johnson and company has bought the XFL and look to bring it back from their death. It looks like they're going to try and play next year in spring of 2021 in a bubble, it looks like. I'm sure we'll get more on that as it progresses, but they bought it for just $15 million, which surprises me, and also has an investment firm involved as well. I kind of want to keep my eyes on this Blackhawks power play as things get interesting, but we're just about halfway through the game at a period and a half. So, without further ado, couple minutes left in the program. Wanted to preview tomorrow's game. It is the 4-6 Rays taking on the 3-7 Red Sox. Number 5 versus number 4 in the American League East standings. Of course, the Rays, number 1 in your heart. It is Charlie Morton at 0-1 and an ERA of 8 getting the start. His 3rd time through. His last start on the 29th of July. That was last Wednesday in Atlanta against the Braves. Went 5 innings pitched, gave up 2 earned runs on 6 hits. I'm trying to think back to that start and what I remember about it. His fastball doesn't have the same bite. It doesn't have that rising or horizontal movement action like it used to. It's also a few ticks lower. Instead of 95, he's throwing 91, 92. The curveball wasn't as good. Hitters seem to take it a lot easier than they did last year. I'm not ready to say Charlie Morton's career is over. If it continues like this, he's obviously not going to opt in for another year. I believe that's a player. I don't know if it's a player or team option, but either side is not bringing him back at whatever it's going to cost, $15 million or whatever. So hopefully he can get back on track at home, his second home start. The first being an opening day that was underwhelming. So a tough Red Sox lineup, but he's faced them a lot before, especially last year, as the Oilers are gonna kill another penalty. The Blackhawks 0 for 3 on the power play in this period. That's not good enough. Patrick Kane and company, if they're gonna want to upset the Oilers and take that series. And then for the Red Sox, a familiar face, if only for a little while. It was Nathan Eovaldi, the righty, getting the start for the Bo Sox. On the year, he's 1-0 with a 2.45 ERA. And his last start Also on the 29th, last Wednesday, at the New York Mets. 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 2 earned runs. I forgot to get the decision on that. Wouldn't be surprised if that was a win at the Mets, I believe. Yeah, the Sox took both of those games, so very well could have been a win. Nathan Eovaldi pitched for the Rays in 2018. He was traded at the deadline to the Red Sox. Of course, the Rays getting back Jalen Beeks in return. I'm not sure many people remember that trade. Honestly, with how much the Red Sox are having to pay Eovaldi to do not so much. He had an ERA of 6 last year, and what the Rays have gotten out of Jalen Beeks, I would say the Rays came out maybe not on the winning side, but a decent side in that trade. He's a righty, so I'm hoping if Austin Meadows is active, I'm going to check Twitter real quick, but I'm not sure that the Rays have made any kind of announcement. But it's been talked about who's supposed to meet him on the road trip, and the Rays say, no, we're going to wait until we get home. Well, they're home. They had an off day. I'm sure they're working out at the Trop to do whatever they're going to do. Joey Votto is trending, so he did play in tonight's game, and he hit a home run. So the same Joey Votto. So maybe I was wrong about the Reds. Maybe they'll make a run and prove me wrong. Would love to have the lefty Meadows lead off against the righty Eovaldi. If not, I can't see them giving another leadoff spot to Choi. He's not been great at the plate. He's not a good leadoff hitter. But you're limited on lefties. Yoshi Tsutsugo, a guy that they messed with in the leadoff spot in summer camp. Cash didn't expect them to do that in the regular season, but you got to mix it up. You don't have a lot of lefties in this lineup. Kevin Kiermaier, you're not leading him off. I can tell you that right now. Trying to go down. Brandon Lau is not a leadoff type. He did not do well. The couple of chances that they've given, I don't think you go with a righty against a righty. That's not the Kevin Cash way, but if you did, stick Yandy Diaz, who I believe is leading the majors in walks right now. I've taken a lot of pitches, but has not really been able to get a hold. He had a couple singles, I think one each on Saturday and Sundays, but it's been really underwhelming at the plate. No home runs. It's not seeing the power out of that bat that we did a season ago. So hopefully he'll be in the lineup. I don't know, but against a righty starter, I would imagine the lefty Tsutsugo will be playing third base. Ji-Man Choi would probably be at first, and then you would go with Lau at second to get the trio of lefties. Shortstop would be Adames, of course, unless you wanted to get really greedy and go with Wendell at short, but I don't think they're going to do that. They want to get Adames time at shortstop, especially at a time like this after an off day. Outfield, you probably go, I'm trying to think, probably Margot in left, Kiermaier in center, Renfroe in right, the typical setup, unless Meadows is back, and then of course you go Meadows, I believe, in right, and then you stick Renfroe in left, and then with Kiermaier in center, and then in that case, as the Blackhawks just sneaked a goal in somehow, some way past the goalie, it's now tied 3-3. I'm gonna go off the air here in a couple of seconds, but I would definitely recommend on NBCSN tuning into that game. It's gonna be a dandy. I know I'll have it on. And then catching, Kevin Smith got cleared. They thought he might have had COVID. A lefty bat hasn't gotten a chance really to play. He's come in as a substitute. I would expect, honestly, against the righty Eovaldi, I would expect Kevin Smith to catch tomorrow. I'll give an update on that on the Twitter at WHBC Stream when they put out the lineup card. So there's my predicted lineup. You got Charlie Morton on the mound. Maybe not with Morton. He hasn't worked with Kevin Smith much, I would expect. Especially with the struggles right now, you'd probably want him with Zunino. And now that I say that, maybe Zunino, but I know they want to get Kevin Smith some at-bats, and the lefty against a righty starting pitcher would be a good time to do that. And again, hopefully Meadows is back. We'll have to wait and see on that. We won't know until tomorrow. I couldn't find anything on that. But hopefully Meadows is back. The Rays get back in the win column. And we will be on the air after that game in the next hour. So if it ends at like 9:40, we'll be on at 10. Make sure you follow the Twitter at WHBC Stream. Certainly for that. Thank you for everyone that's listening. We've gotten some nice feedback from people listening to the show. I've been putting it in the Rays Discord and things like that. Just trying to get some listeners. So if you like it, maybe share it with some people. We're trying to get the word out. Get this thing off the ground. Pleasure being on the air speaking with you tonight. And as always, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
66. The Fan. W.
HBC.
News.